Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Sharing Wisdom. I'm your host, Angie Wisdom. And today you guys are going to want to listen in here because we have a master content creator here. Neel Dhingra is going to help us out, and he's going to talk to us all about the content that he's created that has increased his mortgage business by over 1,000%. So he's doing something right, you all. He's a mortgage broker, owns a team there, and a real estate investor, content creator. And I know you don't necessarily refer yourself to as a coach, but more of an educator in that content area, but helping out thousands of people do it right. Welcome. Thanks, Neel.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Angie. And yeah, you're right. It is there's a lot of people who are trying to learn about this and, want to do things different. So I'm just happy to lead by example and then also help people along the way.
I love it. And it's so needed. I mean, I was just telling you offline, I work with a lot of people in the real estate industry, and you can't really not have content these days. You have to have content and you have to be online, but it is such a struggle and a challenge for some people to either one, break through the mental side of it and the confidence, or two, even if they have that, to know how to produce content and what to say. So I'm hoping you can shed some light on both of those for us today.
Yeah, happy to do it. Let's jump in.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, for those people who are really stuck, let's kind of talk about that. I mean, you did not always do content. You really saw this gap in the industry and started doing it. So was there a particular incident, challenge where you were like, gosh, I really got to be doing this? How did that all start for you?
So I was just kind of stuck in the, business mode of prospecting, constantly, which is still needed, by the way. It's not like you can skip that. It's just content makes that way easier. But I was just stuck in the mode of reaching out to people and then constantly feeling like they didn't get my value, or I was having to prove myself to them over and over, and starting from scratch. And I feel like in this industry, especially, any real estate and mortgage is really like this, but it could apply to other industries as well, where you're kind of as good as last month's numbers or this week's numbers or whatever your pipeline is. And so you could have decades of experience, but your business is worthless if you don't have a good pipeline for this month, right? Because you don't have any deals coming in. So you're constantly running. And so I was just kind of tired of that grind, and wanted to find something within the industry that, kind of to make me like my job again, you know what I mean? Because I was burnt out after doing it for so long. So I started to kind of look at different ways of generating business and looking at ways of getting respect from clients and business partners and referral partners and all that kind of stuff. And I came across content. So I didn't even have a social media account prior to 2018. I was the last guy to have one. I think my family would make fun of me. They'd be like, dude, you're not even on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you don't exist. And I was like, man, you guys are wasting your time on all these platforms, and they're taking all your data, like all the conspiracy things and all that.
Oh, right, right.
I just wasn't there. And then so I started to kind of dip my toe in, watch what people are doing. And I noticed there's a big white space, and there still is, I've been doing this 4 or 5 years. There still is to this day of people who put out just valuable content. To teach people and not really sales and ads and all those. There was plenty of ads at that time, but I didn't see that many people doing content marketing. And so I started going the rabbit hole of what is content marketing? How can it help your business? And, saw very few people in real estate mortgage doing it, but then I saw people doing it in other industries and doing it really well and building audiences and like, why are they doing this? And then started to learn more. So that's how I kind of clicked for me. I'd been watching it, and then something just clicked one day. I think it was like a Gary Vee post or something like that. Like, hey, he had always been yelling at everyone to do it. And finally I was like, I'm going to try. And so I just started doing it. And it was the worst content for the first year. Like, I can't even watch it. It's like cringe.
I was going to say, can we get a clip of this? Can we see some of that content?
It's bad. I don't even want to watch it. And by the way, it's bad when you can't even watch your own videos.
Right. Yeah, I've been there. I get it.
You can't even get through it. You're like, how's anybody else going to watch this? But that's how we all start, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So I love that you said, and by the way, you still have to prospect, but I am curious because most people in the industry loathe the prospecting aspect of it. Do you feel like because you had this content, you were able to reduce that amount of prospecting and still end up with a healthy pipeline?
Yes, 100%. So, but you have to leverage it. So what I found is like this thing's like a megaphone, you know what I mean? Like it's really valuable if you know how to use it. So what I would do is put out informational content to teach people things and to show my expertise. I think a lot of the content you have to look at, what are people vetting? You know, what do you want them to know about you when you put yourself out there? Like if someone, a stranger, potential client, someone who's referred to you, someone who's thinking about starting this process, if they came across you and your profile and your feed, what would that say about you, the individual? So I think getting clear on that message, I didn't get clear on it until, a little bit further in. But what do you want that to say? And it could be some traits about you. Maybe that you're really knowledgeable, you work hard for your clients. It could be things about you personally, how much you care about your family, things like this, right? Maybe you have hobbies that are shared by other people, and so you can highlight these. So what I found was you can kind of write that whole narrative and put that story out there and then just show the work. And what happens is it makes lead conversion way easier. You do get some inbound where people are just like, hey man, been watching your stuff, would love to work with you. I would love to get started with the process. But here's what I found out, Angie, that's pretty shocking to me in the beginning, but now I understand it, is there are just so many people out there who will never reach out to you. They'll watch all your videos. Some of them don't even hit the heart button, but they see it. They're just there. They're like in the shadows. They're not even going to leave a comment or say a word unless you prompt them to do so. So what I found was getting these prompts in there at some point to start conversations was the key to really turning this asset of like, okay, you have a small audience, you have a personal brand. Now you'd like to get more clients and business from this. How do you do that? Well, you have to ask people, but you have to do it the right way.
Yeah, well, I mean, can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think that is another struggle for people is they're doing the content, but they're like, nobody's engaging with me. And there's all these questions. I try to ask for a comment or a suggestion, or I put a poll up, but like, how do I actually get people to connect and engage with me?
So first, you have to do it for others, right? So you would engage with other people. I see you on platforms engaging with other people all the time. That's one way, because people will see you engaging in there and connect with you, like, who's this person? One easy way that everyone can do this is to just go to other people's content and leave comments and reply to their stories. So I prefer Instagram because Instagram has a direct messaging feature, right? So let's just say you don't have that many followers and you're like, okay, Neel, it's easy for you to say you've spent years and you've built an audience. Where do I start? I've got 273 people on Instagram, and only half of them or less are going to see my videos. And so what am I going to do? Well, first and foremost, you're going to make better content, right? You're going to get your content to look sharp. You know what I mean? I ask people, like, would you go to a meeting? Would you show up to a meeting with people or potential clients or anything, or even go out at night looking like crap? You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't do that. But people post content that's really bad. So I would love to say that nobody judges you, but they do. Everyone judges, right? So they're going to judge. Yeah, so they're going to judge you. If you smell or look bad, you're just going to be judged. I wish it was different, and it was, the inside that counts. But it's just true once people get to know you. But in the beginning, they're judging you. Sure. So it doesn't take a lot of money. It takes a few things on the technical side to make sure that your videos look sharp. So I would invest in simple things like a light and a mic to make sure that you sound and look sharp. Cool. So that part's out of the way. Now, what do you say? Well, you're going to teach people things. You can simply make lists of the things that people ask you and how you respond to them. Success stories, ways that you help clients, common questions, problems that you help clients solve. These are all pieces of content. We all have like so much knowledge, but we're always saying no for the audience. So meaning like, you think it's too basic to talk about. You think nobody's going to like it. You think you sound dumb. All these things are just in your head. When you start doing it, that piece of content will be the reason why somebody moves forward, right? And so you can't underestimate the impact of a single piece of content. Like, I think about this all the time. I've had amazing opportunities in life because of one video. And you're like, well, Neil, that's not, you posted thousands of videos. That's true. But it started with one video. The video popped up in the feed. Somebody came and watched one video. So imagine if that day I said, this video is stupid, I'm not going to post it. It's not, whatever. I talked myself out of hitting post. Hitting record or hitting, I wouldn't know that person. I wouldn't have that relationship. Because that was the start of them watching more and going down the rabbit hole and all these things, right? So you never know. It sounds cheesy. Ed Milet says this, you're one post, one podcast, one conversation, one connection away from a totally different life. It's actually true when you think about it. And you just need more attempts. And what's cool about content is it gives you so many at-bats, like you never know. So I love that fact of like, okay, put the videos out, make sure you're putting your best foot forward so people are able to really treat you properly, like give you your full worth. A lot of people are always complaining in this industry about like, the client treated you like this, or you're being commoditized, or you're better than your competitor and they got the business and you didn't. Well, I realized quickly that it's not about who's the best, it's about who's the best known. You know what I mean? So once you start doing this, you'll notice an improvement right away of like the quality of your conversations, the quality of your connections because of the quality of your content. It's directly correlated. And then you can go into like asking people to reach out to you by giving them free information. So one of the prompts that everybody could use who's listening or watching to this will be like, okay, you've been doing the content, you've improved it. Now you want to go to Ask for Business. You can open up Instagram stories, share a success story, share something good that happened. And then the next story, which is the next 15, 30, 40 second block, would be you saying something like, you know what, like a lot of people, I'm so happy for my clients who just closed on that, but a lot of people don't even start the process because they think that it's not going to work for them. They think the market's too expensive. They think it's too difficult. When the truth is there's many solutions that we can help you with. So anyways, I put together a guide that can help you with this. If you'd like it, shoot me a message. And then you'll get people to raise their hand. Or you can say, I've set aside some time to do some one-on-one strategy calls on Thursday. If you'd like to grab one of those spots, shoot me a message, right? So what happens is one of the people will shoot you a message who's been watching your videos for months, but hasn't said anything. And because you prompted them, they will reach out. If you never ask, you're never going to get. You know what I mean? So there is prospecting involved, but the prospecting becomes way easier because they already trust you. So like I have an opinion of you because of your personal brand. You have an opinion of me because of personal brand. So we're meeting for the first time on video right now, but we treat each other with respect because of the stuff we've already seen, right? That same thing will happen with clients. It's cool.
Yeah, and that reminds me of a post I saw that you did where you were mentioning that content is kind of the precursor, like of that relationship that you start. If you've had good content out there and somebody watched that, then this connection is a lot easier to make. And it almost seems like it's further down the road because you've built that respect or that trust through the content.
100%. Yeah. So it just like accelerates the process. You could do it without it, but you have a lot more time. You need more connections. You need more warm referrals. So the offline stuff, super important. But this just makes it easier. You know what I mean? And so if somebody doesn't know you, you can direct them to your content to get to know you. The thing is you have to be proud of your content first. So that's why I say, let's start with that. Get this stuff dialed in first. Then you'll be proud enough to share it with people. Like, so if I run into you and me, you and Kevin were at a restaurant and he's like, hey, Neil, I want you to meet Angie. I'll meet you. And then say like, let's just change contact information. Do you have a card? I don't have a business card. Let me just text you my Instagram. Or let me just text you. I'll just text you Instagram.com/Neel Home. And then you go like, okay, you click it, maybe watch a video or two, and in 30 to 60 seconds, your opinion of me will change. Right? For the better. Absolutely. And so you can leverage this. It's a tool to improve your in-person stuff. It's not going to replace it. You know what I mean?
It's, and I hope that people are hearing this and really taking it in because it's such a big piece of why to do content instead of what I think some people really wrap their head around content is for, to get that lead, to get that deal. And it really isn't about that. It's about making it easier and giving yourself the space. Something you said a minute ago about, so you can have so many at-bats, and content isn't great in the beginning, but you're also speaking like it's got to be good. So it sounds like there's this fine line of okay, you got to put it out where it kind of meets these minimum standards, but you also have to kind of let go of it and get it out there and take a chance.
Yeah. So I would tell you, if you look at scale 1 to 10, you need to reach a minimum level of quality. You can go too far, and now you're looking for perfection, which is a waste of. It's not a good use of your time, because then you'll labor and you'll get stuck on over one piece of content. The value of a single piece of content can be really high. It could also be worthless, right? It could be just a flash in the day. Somebody saw it, didn't really connect, and they're on to the next thing within seconds or fraction of a second sometimes, right? So in that case, you know that it needs to be that in that sweet spot. So I think about this as like a 6 or 7 on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of quality, right? And so you don't want to post a 4 or 5 because that's going to reduce it. Now, with stories and things like that, if it's not that great, no harm, no foul, it goes away. But people still saw it, right? So I would just say get your stuff to a content level of 6 or 7. One simple way that everybody can get theirs from like a 4 to a 6 or 7 is to simply wipe the lens of your camera. So this camera, this iPhone,
guilty of that.
this thing's incredible camera. Like I use this for so much of my content. So many times people are like, "Hey Neil, what did you shoot that with?" I'm like, "Just an iPhone, but I had good light." Or it was sunny outside and I just rotated till the light hit my face and now it looks better, right? So there's some things you could do with just this phone, but it only works really well if you wipe the lens, because this thing is on our face all day, it's in your hair, and it gets just oil on it. So if you just wipe it, you go from 4 to 7 like this. So that's the first thing you can do. And then you can improve the quality of what you're saying, and you get better at communication and all these kinds of things. But I just think of it like this, Angie. Each piece of content is like an asset, right? You're creating an asset. So a lot of people look big investments. This thing you can create for free. It's just your time, a little bit of time that you've put into it. It gets better as you go. But it could end up being, a single piece of content could end up being worth a lot of money to you. It can possibly go viral, but it doesn't even have to. It could start a conversation with somebody. It could get you respect with somebody who turns out to be a great business relationship. Could create, connections for you. There's all these things which are, you have all this upside, and the risk is like you took 5 to 10 minutes of your time. You know what I mean? So like, it's sort of risk reward in investing. Like, this is the best investment I've ever made. You know what I mean?
I love that you said 5 to 10 minutes of time, because I know that some people are listening going, 5 to 10 minutes? Dude, it takes me like an hour to do one video. So speak to that a little bit about, and I think that goes back to that perfectionism aspect and trying to say the perfect thing and look the perfect way. But that really throws people off. I mean, I've talked to people and they're like, it's taken me so long. I don't have time for this because it takes me so long to get a video straight. Did you deal with that in the beginning? Like, did your videos take a long time? How'd you overcome that? Or what do you tell people around that?
Yeah, I think like in the beginning, you do spend a lot of time because you're learning. And so what takes you 30, 40 minutes in the beginning, you're eventually going to get down to 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So that's the key, is it gets easier the more you do it. I saw this chart the other day that perfectly sums it up. It shows like how hard something is the first time you do it. And it's this red bar that goes really high. And how easy, how much easier it gets the second time.
Yes.
And it's like a fraction of it. And so it's not just like a small reduction. It's a massive reduction in the amount of time it takes you once you've done it once or twice. So that first once or twice is what keeps people. And then it just gets easier. So you get better at doing it off the cuff. You get better at your delivery. You don't have to shoot as many takes. You get better at your ideas. And a lot of people say they're not creative. I was not creative either. But once you start creating, you will become more creative. If you ask anybody who's had a writer block, they'll tell you want to write through it as one of the strategies. You just start writing shit. It's really bad at first, and then start to get some ideas,
Yeah.
So one simple way that people can use this in their content is, if you don't want to plan out what you say because you want it to be really kind of just authentic, you could just make a list of questions or have somebody ask them, or you could just look at them and just say what comes to mind. So a question could be like, what's something good that happened this week? What's a recent takeaway from a client call or podcast or meeting that you had? What's a recent problem you solved? What's a success story that you can share? What's something that happened in the news that you could simplify it for your clients? Just these types of questions. And then what'll happen is, and by the way, if anybody wants, I think I made a list of these somewhere. I can send it to you guys. But if you ever want, just DM me on Instagram and I'll send it to you. But basically just look at these prompts and just speak, just answer the question. Because so many people have been doing this 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. If you sit down with them and have a beer or, you're just talking and I ask you a question, you'll answer me like very nicely, clearly.
Right.
It'll be the perfect answer. And as soon as we put the camera on, like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to do this.
Yes.
You're already doing it. We just need to capture it on video. That's all.
Yeah. I worked with Lynn Smith in some media training before, and she phrases it great. She goes, it's just like a barstool conversation. Act like you're just sitting on a barstool and talking to somebody and they ask you that question. It really is, when you put the camera there, you kind of all of a sudden freeze up or you start overthinking. So I love all those prompts and I think that's super helpful. But you kind of know when somebody has all those prompts and they're still stuck, that it's probably more in their head than anything else. And everybody, I think at some point in time deals with that, whether they're worried about what people think or they just don't have the confidence in their knowledge, some kind of mental block to this. So is that something that you dealt with in the beginning from a confidence standpoint or an authority standpoint?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are not doing a bunch of things in life because of lack of confidence, right? Yes. So for me, confidence has been like the closest correlation to my success in business and relationships and everything. It's like, how confident are you in yourself? And this probably gets into like psychological issues from childhood. Like there's all kinds of stuff, rabbit holes you could go down, right? You never thought you were good enough, all these types of things. So I've noticed talking to more and more people at the events and the conferences that we do, so many people, 30, 20, 30, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, it doesn't matter. They're still dealing with this same issue of they don't feel like they're good enough to do it, or that people are going to judge you harshly, or you're worried about judgment, all these things. So first and foremost, I realized we are not that important. There's a fire hose of content coming at the user. If you suck, good news is the algorithm knows this and it's going to show it to very few people. So it's not like you're going to be like embarrassing yourself in front of that many people.
I love that.
And then the second part is if somebody doesn't like the video or what you said, or you didn't hook them with whatever your delivery was, you're just not good, they'll just scroll past you. It's not like they send you a message and saying anything bad, right? Mm-hmm. Occasionally when you get going, you'll get some comments from people who are haters or whatever. But for the most part, in the beginning, that doesn't really happen. You know what I mean? And most of the time, people doing the bad comments are just people that have their own set of issues. It's not even a reflection of you. It's something going on with them internally. So I wouldn't even worry about that. But in the beginning, it's just your fear of all these things. And it's like none of them really are true. You know what I mean? Like people aren't really, you're not that important. They're not going to sit and focus in on your video and see is it perfect or not. They will give you a little more attention if it is good. So, and some of them don't even know why they're watching it more. You ever watch a video and you can watch somebody talk for 30 to 45 minutes, but somebody else you can't even stand to listen, or you can't watch. Yes. They can keep your attention for 10 seconds. Yes. It's the same thing with public speaking, all these things, right? So I think they just either watch or they don't watch. And when they don't watch, they just move on. It's not no harm done, right? So you can keep getting better. So I think people are just like putting this on a pedestal of like how important this is, when it's really just about getting started. And what I found was confidence is not built overnight. It's like a brick by brick kind of thing. And so I look back at those videos where I was like cringeworthy. I didn't have any confidence. I was worried about what people are going to think, and that I'm not qualified to be doing this. I look stupid, sound stupid, whatever. And then at some point along the way, and it's different for every single person, it just clicks and you can be yourself. And you just care a little bit less. So one strategy, because I'm big on tactics, on like how you can get over this, is to take your phone out and just those prompts I mentioned earlier, and there's many more, just answer those questions to the phone, like video. You can put it on like a tripod, or you can just hold it up selfie style and just talk, right, for a minute. Make some minute videos. You don't have to post these. Just do this for 10 days. In 10 days, so day one, you do it every morning or afternoon, whatever you want to do. Just get it out of the way in the morning, I would say, because then you won't do it otherwise. Get it out of the way in the morning. Do it day one, day two, and get to it. And I'll tell you, by day 10, you will hate the way you look and sound a little bit less, because it's just like a desensitization process that has to happen. We're not used to seeing ourselves and hearing our voice and doing this because we didn't grow up with making videos every day like the younger generation, right? So I think you just have to see it, hear it, and then what will happen is by day 10, you'll probably be like, dude, I could probably post that one. And maybe you post it, but you don't have to post the other ones. I think that would be a cool strategy. I've done that in the beginning, and I've had several people do it and tell me it worked.
Yeah, I love that. And I used to tell clients all the time, look, I just want you to do a handful of videos, and I don't even care if you ever watch them. Yeah. Just get into that act of like speaking, and you might feel like you sound stupid. It doesn't matter. You can just go and delete them, but just get into that place of speaking into the camera and doing something. Another strategy I'd use with some of my clients is I put them on a challenge. Do a 15-day challenge to get on your story every single day. Because I think the stories are a little less because they're not permanent and you don't necessarily pre-record them. It's a little easier, and it's amazing to see. It's really fun to see somebody over those 15 days. Like you said, they seem nervous. They seem like they don't know what they're talking about. And by day 15, they're like, and they're so comfortable and authentic, and they've changed so much. And I never thought about it from what you said. Like, it really is this desensitization to it that you're like, just doesn't bother me that much anymore.
Yeah, you get over it pretty quick. It's just, it's the learning curve is lower than you think. It happens pretty fast. So, and this is assuming that you know what you're talking about. Now, that's whole other podcast we do. I'm like, you don't have the skill, or you don't, like, we got to get the knowledge, and you work with somebody, maybe you work underneath someone. Because a lot of people feel not qualified to talk about something because they truly aren't. Like, it's not imposter syndrome. You truly are an imposter. So you need to fix that first, because you won't have the confidence otherwise. The way you can do that is to just talk about what you do know and be honest. You can be new to the industry and really and people will connect with you. You're like, you know what? I got into this industry just last year, and I've learned a ton. I'm still nowhere near where I want to be, but here's a couple things I picked up. And I'm gonna keep showing you guys the journey. I'm gonna show you things along the way. I call this building in public, right? It works really well. So, for example, I was starting a new education company, and we didn't know what we're doing. I didn't know what I was going to be. It was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. Starting an event that I didn't know if anyone was going to show up. So I'm just talking about this, like, live in public. And what's cool about this is years later, people will come to your things and support your business and your products and services because they saw the journey. So I had people come to our latest event and be like, man, I've been watching since the beginning, and it's really inspired me to do this. And it's really cool that you showed this. Because a lot of people think you have to wait until you get to be the expert before you can start posting. You don't have to be. You can show the whole process of becoming one.
Yeah, it's very relatable, I think, for people to be able to be with you at the beginning journey. And if you're anything like me, like, have you ever had that moment where you've almost given business to somebody because you remember being in their shoes, and they're that small business owner, they're just starting out, and you're like, I see it. I see they are where I was, and you kind of want to help in that way.
Yeah, what's cool about teaching, I think, and coaching and stuff, anybody does it, and you know this, like, the fulfillment you get, it sounds cliche or cheesy, but it's like way more than money, right? It's about the impact it has on people's lives, and somebody coming up to you and saying, hey man, you inspired me to do this, or you helped me make this change that has saved my life, my business and my life. Like, that's the type of impact you can have. And so how many people out there, I think about this all the time, how many people out there are feeling like they were meant to do more than what they're doing right now?
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Always.
Like, I had that feeling for decades, and it will eat at you, and that's why you're unhappy. That's why you don't have fulfillment. One of the ways you could solve this is by teaching others. And I don't mean to start an education company and coach people. You don't have to become a coach. I'm just saying, whatever it is you have knowledge. You've gone from A to B. You've also helped clients go from A to B. Maybe you've helped clients go from A to D or E, depending on how far you've gone with this. You are now qualified to teach that, and you are able to help people. There's this interesting trend which has happened over the last few years. Viewers on social media are more engaged and actually looking for information, and they'd love to learn from someone who's just a few steps ahead of them. You can only learn so much from a billionaire who's 23 steps ahead of you. Right?
The gap's too big.
Yeah, so it's like, it's unrealistic. It's cool. Like, I want to follow Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, but like, can they really, I want to know what they were doing 20 years ago. That's more applicable to my journey, not what they're doing today as, some of the richest people in the world. So
Absolutely.
Going back to like, who's the person that you can learn from? It's someone who's just a couple steps ahead of you, who has some of the success that you want. So people follow those people and they want to learn from those people, and you can really impact. And so what I found is, if you feel like that, you're meant to do more than what you're doing. I'm just a real estate agent. I'm just a CPA. I'm just a mortgage broker or whatever. You can start helping others, and then you'll have so much more fulfillment. It'll start to come through in all of your work. You'll have more enthusiasm. You'll show up with a freaking smile. You'll show up pumped for the day. And that will now lead to more confidence, which leads to more sales, which leads to more business, which leads to more money, which drives you to do even more. And it just is this circle that goes the right way rather than the way that people go down,
It's so true. I have a handful of clients right now that are doing that exact same thing. One is a jeweler. He makes jewelry and he has his own company, but he's super passionate about sharing his mental health journey and his fitness journey that he's gone through in his life. And it's like, share it, help other people do it. It doesn't mean you have to change your primary job and what you do. You can do this on the side just from this place of fulfillment. So I love that too. A big question for you. This question comes to me all the time where people are like, do I have to show up? They don't want to be there. They want to put all the social around their company and what they do and their clients, but they personally, and me, I'm saying absolutely you have to. But speak a little bit to that as far as the impact of somebody's social channel who puts their personal life and, like you said, their hobbies or their family, them in there versus just their business.
So there's two types of, I guess accounts and, types of content creators. There's brands and businesses, and then there's individual personal brands is what we call it, right? And so both can be successful, but you have to think about this. It's a game of like David versus Goliath, right? Mm-hmm. What's cool about content, it's the one space where David can win and does win, right? It's not like in business where you're doing a marketing campaign and these Fortune 500 companies can just outspend you and outwork you because they have massive teams and you just lose. This is different. Like, they don't have what you have. You have something personal. You have that connection, that authenticity, the personal knowledge about your individual business, market, whatever it is. So you want to leverage that, I would say, to win. And so you give up that whole advantage if you're like, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be able to personal brand. I just want to build my company brand. Now you're playing the other game where your brand or your company is competing with massive players. And so it's highly, highly competitive. It doesn't mean you can't create great content based around the brand and not be in the videos. I'm just telling you, it's like going to be a much more difficult path. Now, you can do this as a small team. Like, I've seen people do this where it's a team of 3 people and they're going to like work together. One of them's going to be the person on camera. The other person's more going to be behind the scenes, creative, coming up with stuff. You can do a lot of writing. If you don't want to be on camera, you can just write. You can do blogs, tweets, threads, all these kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely different ways to win. It's not like you have to be the one on video. I've seen people build their whole brand behind camera by just showing the products and the successes of the clients and just talking behind the camera. So like voiceover almost, but showing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So there is a way to do that, but I've found that if you really want to build a powerful personal brand, there's some connection that happens when it's you looking at the viewer. The eye contact, the connection that happens is unlike anything else. It's super powerful. You're building so much trust at scale. I don't care what we're selling, houses, loans, jewelry, fitness. At the end of the day, if you're trying to get clients, you're selling trust. Mm-hmm. Do they trust you? They'll buy from you. They'll work with you. If they don't trust you, your offers don't work, right? Whatever you're offering, whatever you're selling, it doesn't really connect to you. You struggle for your whole life. If people trust you, you're good. That's why people love warm referrals, because somebody told you to contact this person. The trust is already there, right? So the problem is this is always been unscalable. So I had this podcast with Gary Vee. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And I got lucky enough to like find a way to hack my way into getting a podcast with him for like 15 minutes. And in that podcast, I asked him about content. He gave me some ideas, but I asked him for his best advice. And he said, Neel, figure out a way to scale the unscalable. So what's unscalable? Sending voice memos and messages to people personally, making videos, just you making the video, right? That's not, you have to actually do this. It takes time every single day. It's not something that can be outsourced. Like some of these things, you have to actually do them. But if you figure out a system to do them that gets you high ROI and high return, like now you're scaling the unscalable. So I just think about, for me, I would take maybe 10, 15 minutes every single day. Used to do this for hours. Now I do it for like 10, 15 minutes, responding to other people's content, leaving messages, sending personal messages like voice memos on Instagram, being like the real person. Could I hire a VA to do that? Yes, but it wouldn't be the same.
Right.
It can't be could you get AI to that? Maybe someday, or maybe now you can do that, but it's not going to be the same, right? So it doesn't take much time and it has a huge ROI. Then I would say, like, just make the time to do it yourself. You know what I mean? Like you got to put in that work, and then you'll see the returns that you're looking for. And then I think a lot of people quit or they don't continue, or they're skeptical because they don't see the return.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's sometimes that hidden return, like you said. I'll have people that contact me and I've never seen them comment. I've never seen their name pop up. And they're like, oh, I love all your videos, and I want to talk about working together. So some people just don't, ever really reach out on Instagram, and you don't even know.
Yeah. And then maybe people aren't doing the prompt. They're not asking people to do it.
Right.
So then people aren't just so courageous that they're going to reach out to you. Most people the reason why people aren't anywhere where they want to be in life or don't have the things they want or the goals is because they're scared to go for it. Mm-hmm. So you are the one who's going to help them go for it. But you have to get them in, baby steps, give them that first step. That's sales, but it would be cool when you're doing that if you already have their trust because they've been watching your stuff and you already, so that is only going to happen if you are the person doing it. If you outsource it, it will still work. It just won't work as well.
Yeah, it's not. It definitely doesn't come off as authentic, and I don't think that does much for your personal confidence. And then when you do connect with them, it's still there's a little bit of gap there. And and
then what are people's goals? People. It's kind of weird doing this for so long, Angie, and now we're seeing all these people who are reluctant to do it. What do you want? The result, what is the result that you want? And some people don't even know, right? So then maybe they're not, their goals aren't clear, or maybe their goals aren't even exciting enough to where you would want to go through the period of eating shit for a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. The stuff that has given me the most ROI, incidentally, is the stuff that didn't pay at first. Mm-hmm. So this is just a fact. It's not like a debate where your opinion is different. This is just proven over time with everything with marketing and brand. The stuff that takes longer pays the most. This is not symmetric. This is not put this money in on this ad, get this return, and you can calculate it. This is asymmetric. You put this time and investment in of your time and your skills and getting better. The return is unlimited. There's no ceiling. It's the best game to play. Anybody who's rich, who's built wealth, has had returns that are asymmetric. So people's returns are not related to the time they put in initially, right? That's the game you want to be in. And so if you're complaining about lack of success or not hitting your goals and things like this, I think first and foremost, get clear on, do you really want that? Mm-hmm. And if it is something you really want, make sure you're doing something that is not symmetric. You're putting something into that. Some people call this gambling. They put it into early stage companies. They put money into it and it could go to the moon or it could go to zero. With this, I'm not even telling you to do that. I'm telling you just take your time. How much is your time worth?
It's such a shift for people, especially in the industry of any industry where you're in prospecting, right? The real estate, mortgage, financial advising, because they really do the cold calling, right? It's a numbers game. So if you're prospecting like that, people know I can make this many calls and get this. They loathe it. They don't want to do it, and sometimes they just don't do it. But the thought of knowing that there's somewhat, not guaranteed, but somewhat of a statistical return on that is so much more comforting than I'll just spend time on social media and hope that it all works. So my question for you is, Is there a way to gauge it? I mean, you threw up huge numbers, right? You said you started an account almost 4 years ago and you have over 111,000 followers now. So that's obviously not the norm. I can speak from experience, but what should people expect? Like if they're putting in and allocating time every single day to this and their content is getting better, is there a way to know like, yeah, this is kind of worth the ROI for me?
Yeah. So you want to get feedback, I think, from strangers that your content's working. And so, are you getting some engagement? What do people think of your content? Sometimes it's just a distribution problem where nobody saw it, so then you have enough of a sample size. I remember somebody telling me at first, hey, Neel, on Twitter, test your ideas on Twitter. And I'm like, I'll test them, but nobody sees them. So I can't test, like, I'm not getting any feedback. So what am I supposed to do? But then over time, I've had a few people, more and more people engage and share it. And with those types of platforms, one person sharing it or one person engaging gets you 10, 100 more eyeballs, sometimes 1,000 more eyeballs if they have a big audience, right? So that's, every platform is a little different, but you want to figure out a way to get people to share your content essentially, because that's, in general, that's what's going to make it better. So first and foremost, like, are you looking at it to make it better? Athletes watch tape to get better. They're trying to get better always. So like, are you really playing? Or are you just kind of checking the box of I posted on something? So if you really are trying to get better, then you would look at what topics are working. What are other people doing who are having success? How could you do your own version of that and still be yourself? And also like, what are the topics that are trending right now? Maybe you're talking about stuff that's not trending. So you want to follow that. Like, for example, a few months back, AI, I've never seen anything like this, is trending like no other search possible.
Yeah.
Like, I saw the spike. So if you made any video, even a mediocre one or a substandard one and you talked about AI tools, you got more reach, right? So could you learn about AI tools and apply them in your business and talk about it on social? Probably. There you go. Like
one example, but there's always something new happening in trends. So be a student of the game if you really want to get better. And then the second thing is, I was
getting results even if I didn't have that many followers. So even when I had just 1,000 or 800, I was still getting results. Why? Because I was doing the outbound. So
a lot of people believe you just build it, they will come. Like we talked about earlier, nobody comes. Like very few people.
Right.
So
how do you get more people to see your content? You need to drive them to do it.
So I'll give you a real life example. If I didn't know Angie at all, never met her, but I was wanting to connect with her, what would I do? So first and foremost, I'd make sure I've got at least some good content on my page. I've got my photos clear of my face. Like I've got my bio, how I help people. I've got some videos there that look good. Doesn't mean I have to be huge audience. That doesn't matter. Just the content needs to be a good representation of me that I'm proud of. Cool. Next step. Now I would reach out to you and not just cold DM you. Hey, watch my videos. They look cool. Look at me. No, that's not going to work. I would go to your Instagram story, if you're using Instagram stories or your content, and leave a comment. The reason why I like stories is because when you drop a emoji
or when you drop a comment in Instagram stories, it opens up a direct message conversation with that individual. So I have an open text DM thread with that person.
Gotcha.
Not every single person's going to respond and do it, but imagine if you just took some time to do this every day. What's going to happen is they're going to come to your page. Who is this person? They're going to learn. And then what happens is now next time you post, even if you're not following each other or they're not following you, your video will show up in their feed because Instagram. So you can directly drive people. You can like prospect people to your page.
Interesting.
You can send emails out to your database once you're proud of your content and say things like, I'm posting a lot more helpful content on Instagram. Let's connect there. Not bury the icon at the bottom of your email signature that nobody knows and nobody ever clicks on. Actually, in the body of your email at the bottom, like, by the way, P.S., I post a lot of helpful content on Instagram. Let's connect there. If you did this every single time you sent out an email, you'll have people coming to your page. So you just need to like increase the surface area of your luck. Like a lot of this is like, oh, my one video went viral. I got like 15,000 followers from one piece of content. That's amazing. A lot of YouTubers, same thing. They made 100 videos. 3 of the videos are responsible for growing the channel. The rest just did okay. This is true with all content. How do you get lucky? You need more people to see it, the right people to see it. If they're not, if the algorithm's not going to show your content to those people in the beginning, you need to make sure they see it. You need to email them and message them so that they come back and see it. And the way you do that is, those are just 2 ideas of many that I have that work. And I implement those, and our students do them, and it works.
I love that. That's a huge takeaway for me. And hopefully people are picking up on that too. You just mentioned, your students, and I do want to talk about that as we're wrapping up here.
Sure.
It's a huge need. And I know that you help people create content, and you offer, whether you just did your first event, by the way, congratulations, right? I laughed and loved your post when you were talking to your therapist about, how the event went. And you're like, it needs to be bigger and better next time,
Well, it's just like, we did that event. It looks like the first one. We've done it, the forward event 3 times now. But this one was the biggest one where more people noticed, right? And so, we've had people that have come to them for years. And then prior to doing those events, I was just doing micro classes with people, like 8 people in a room or 6 people on Zoom. You know what I mean? So it starts off, nobody notices, nobody cares. All of a sudden they do if you just stick with it.
Love it. So that one that you did, how many people did you have at your Vegas event?
We had 1,000 people come out to Vegas. It's called the Forward Event. You can always check it out at forwardevent.com. We do this every July. It's our third. This is the third one, so the next one will be our 4th one. And we have amazing speakers. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you'll learn a ton about business and marketing. It's primarily focused on growing your business and how to get more eyeballs on whatever it is that you're doing, and how to get more customers and clients. I mean, a lot of the people are in the real estate industry, but anybody in a client service business, honestly. And so what we've done that for the last few years is really to see how it's grown. And the coolest part about this, Andy, that I'm really proud of, is I haven't run any ads for it.
Wow.
So the people who came just where somebody told you about it, or I messaged you about it to let you know. I did a lot of unscalable things like sending hundreds and thousands of messages, to people one-to-one to let them know that this is important. And that's something cool. Like,
I didn't say this earlier, but I think it's important for everyone to realize this. Like, what it is that you're doing. A lot of people are like, I'm passionate about what I do. I love it. I don't know that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that you're super passionate about what you do, because it doesn't come through in what you're doing.
Right.
So for me, if something's important to you and I don't even know if it's important to you, how the hell is it going to be important to me, the viewer? Right. So a lot of the things we're doing, we're like, why isn't people coming to this, or why aren't people buying up this, or showing up to my webinar, or showing up to my class? I think the issue is not that you haven't conveyed like the value of what it is. I think that you haven't conveyed that this is important to you. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? So for me, I talk about it every single day, if not every other day, of like, here's what I'm doing. This is so important to me. I put so much time, energy, and effort into this. The reason why is I want to make it really good for the audience. Here's what we're working on right now. Build in public. Like, people will see how important this is, and then they'll feel it's important. So like, raise the bar for yourself by talking about this in public. It works really well. But yeah, we launched that Forward Academy, which is my education company. It launched this, I think, almost 3 years ago now. And it started off, like I said, with just like a handful of people that wanted to get better at digital marketing and content marketing. And then from there, we've grown to thousands of students in our programs online. And then we have some in-person workshops where we do work with like very few people who are super serious about like wanting to go on the shortcut, like come into our office and we'll do everything for you. Like, we don't do that for everybody, but there's a small group of people we do that for. And then as far as events go, we do this annual event every year. We have a mastermind. We have a lot of cool things that come up, like little meetups throughout the year. So the goal is just to help people move forward, like in their business goals and in their marketing, and teach, show them the path to doing it and make it realistic for people. Like, it's not, I like this balance of clouds and dirt. So you ever see events where it's all in the clouds, like it's all about like mindset and this and, theoretical and all these things. And so for me, like, that sounds good and stuff, but at some point it leaves you like, okay, well, Angie, what do I do next? Like,
yes.
Like, okay, I got my mind right. Can you just tell me what to do next? So I like the dirt as well. Like, okay, here's how we implement this. I'll give you guys the first step, or if you're already at good. Let me show you how to get to great. Here's what you need to do. Here's the missing piece. And I think
the blend of clouds and dirt is like the best type of training I've seen.
Yeah, I do. I'm a big fan of that. I've never heard it clouds and dirt terminology, but yeah, I mean, I think I sent you my book in the journal, and that's the whole philosophy behind it. Is like, it's one thing if I just tell you all these great things about your mindset and your confidence, but how do you actually implement that every single day? What does the action look like so that you didn't just learn a bunch of great stuff that you can share with somebody else, but you can actually live it and make it happen. So I love that strategy. And you do something like on a weekly basis, right? You have ongoing groups
so we have a
for
program
people to be a
online where
part
we
of.
have calls, Zoom calls, and hundreds of people show up from all around the country, and we go over the latest trends that work in social and stuff. So that's called our Content Accelerator program. And it's super easy for people to join that. And that's the first step kind of to learning about all these things. Everything I talk about in terms of getting your content set up and dialed in and how to shoot it, like technically, we teach all that. We have modules, and then we do a call on every other Tuesday for that group where we go through, okay, here's this new feature that came out. How do you guys use it to your advantage? Or here's a new trend that's working. Here's the topics that are trending. Here's some hooks for you guys to use in your video. Like just give people ideas, because a lot of them just get stuck in like, hey, I don't know what to post. I've got all these ideas, but I want to, so we try and get people the shortcut as far as like, all right, here's some ideas. You guys put your own spin on it. Let's go.
And I love the accountability feature. I mean, you have to have this group of people and community to stay up with it. So where can they find that, Neel?
So you can just, on my on my Instagram, you can DM me the word content and we'll send you a video on this. The other thing you can do is go to forwardacademy.com and it'll tell you all about all the events, the programs, all that kind of stuff.
I love it. Okay. So I'm officially saying you all that are listening that are stuck on your content have no more excuses. You've got Neel here who will literally help you through the very beginning phases all the way from good to great and all that good stuff. So you have been a huge resource for everyone today. I'm super grateful that you came on the show. I want to ask you one more thing. I always ask everyone, it's all about sharing wisdom, which you've done a lot of. And you even gave me this one piece of information that I think was pretty key. But what do you consider kind of the most meaningful piece of wisdom that you've ever been given or that you live by?
I think it's, so there's so many things that come to mind, but I was thinking like if you had to narrow it down to, one thing as far as business advice goes, because I think that's a lot of people who are listening, like that's where they want to be. It's to start putting your time, and it doesn't have to be all of your time. That's a thing. Put some of your time into a category in terms of business or an investment in business that would have this unlimited return. I didn't quite understand that for years, and that's why I always was stuck at a certain income level. And so once I figured that concept out of like, okay, the most wealthy people, anybody who's super successful is playing it. There's levels to the game. They're playing a different level. They're playing it in a different space. Doesn't mean that you abandon the day-to-day stuff that pays the bills and does all that, because that could turn out to be a disaster. So you got to, it's not, I guess this is the wisdom too. It's not always or, it's and.
Yes.
And you do have the time to do this. Like the ability to do things is not like set in stone. You know what I mean? Like your bandwidth goes up. I can tell you right now, the things I do on a daily basis, there's no freaking way I would have thought that was possible years ago, because they took so long, because it's so hard, right? And so a lot of the things like you think you don't have time for, you actually do if you're just unorganized. That's all. Like I thought I didn't have time for anything. I didn't have any organization. So then it was just chaos. And so then that's why,
the days and the weeks and the months and the years go by and you don't get anywhere. So I know there's like a few things in there, but that concept is what has changed my whole business and life.
I love it. Absolutely. Thanks again for being here, Neel. I appreciate you. You all go forward, Neel, and go to forwardacademy.com and learn more about his content coaching and education. Thanks, Neel.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you.